A mother's nightmare turned miracle. The day her daughter came back. The morning she returned. The soft hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the Collins household that morning. Outside, the early spring sun peeked through thick gray clouds, casting a dim golden haze across the kitchen counter, where a half-drunk cup of coffee sat untouched. The toast had gone cold, but Sarah didn't notice. She was still staring at the same spot on the wall she had stared at every morning for the past year. It had been exactly 12 months since her 10-year-old daughter, Lily, vanished. 1 minute, Lily was walking home from school, her pink backpack bouncing behind her like usual. The next, gone. No one saw her. No one heard anything. The police had searched for weeks. Flyers were posted, press conferences held, prayers whispered into pillows at 3 a.m. Sarah remembered the way the officers' tone shifted during those last visits, how their eyes softened in pity, and how that last call, gently suggesting she begin to accept reality, shattered something deep inside her. But Sarah never accepted. Every morning, she made breakfast for two, even though only one seat was filled. She kept Lily's room the same, the posters, the drawings on the wall, even the half-finished puzzle on the dresser. Her daughter would come back. Somehow, she would come back. So when the knock came that morning, soft and hesitant, Sarah assumed it was her neighbor, Carol. She wiped her hands on a dish towel, straightened her cardigan, and tried to fake a smile. She opened the door, and there stood Lily. But this wasn't the same Lily who had vanished a year ago. This Lily looked smaller than she should have been, like she hadn't grown in months. Her blonde hair was tangled and dirty. Her eyes, once bright and full of questions, were now sunken and distant. She wore an oversized hoodie, muddy socks, and in her trembling arms, two tiny, crying newborns, wrapped in old towels. Time froze. The breath in Sarah's lungs collapsed. The coffee mug in her hand hit the floor with a shatter. "Mom," Lily whispered, her voice fragile, cracking. "Can I come in?" Sarah stepped back instinctively, and Lily crossed the threshold like a ghost returning home. She shuffled toward the couch, her arms shaking under the weight of the babies. The children, Sarah couldn't even comprehend that word in this context, were no more than a week old. Their cries were faint, as if they hadn't had the energy to cry properly in days. Sarah's hands trembled as she knelt beside her daughter. "Lily, where have you been? What is this? Who are they?" "I can't talk about it yet," Lily murmured, her body curling protectively around the babies. "Please, just don't call anyone. If you do, they'll come. They'll take them." "Them? Who?" "Lily, what are you talking about? You've been gone for a year. We thought—" "I know." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes. "But I had to keep them safe. I didn't know where else to go." Sarah's world tilted. The room, the house, everything she had held on to for the past year. None of it made sense now. She wanted to scream, to cry, to pick Lily up and never let her go again. But the way her daughter trembled, the way she glanced nervously at the windows, it was as if they were still being hunted. "I'm not going to call the police," Sarah finally said, her voice steadying. "But I need to know if you're hurt. Did someone do this to you?" Lily's lips parted, then closed again. She looked down at the infants, brushing her finger along one of their tiny foreheads. "They're mine, Mom." The words detonated in Sarah's chest, like a bomb. "No," she whispered. "Lily, you're 10. That's not possible. You don't even—" I didn't understand it either, Lily said softly. But it happened, and now they're here. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks before she realized she was crying. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times, her daughter walking through that door. But never like this. The babies whimpered. Sarah, still in shock, did the only thing her heart could manage. She reached out and took one into her arms. His skin was warm, soft. He smelled like soap and something raw and new, a life not yet shaped. She looked at Lily. Her daughter's face held exhaustion far beyond her years. She looked like a child who had wandered through a nightmare and somehow come out alive. Are you safe now? Sarah asked. Are they looking for you? Lily didn't answer, but the fear in her eyes said yes. They stayed like that for hours. Sarah feeding the babies formula from an emergency kit she found in the pantry. Lily barely spoke. She slept on and off on the couch, clutching a threadbare blanket, jerking awake at every noise. Sarah wanted to call someone, a doctor, a therapist, someone who could explain how her daughter had returned from the dead with 2 infants. But she couldn't bring herself to pick up the phone. Instead, she sat on the edge of the couch and watched Lily sleep. And when Lily finally opened her eyes again, Sarah gently asked, Will you tell me when you're ready? Lily nodded, when I know it's safe. That night, Sarah tucked her daughter into bed for the first time in over a year. She watched her fall asleep, with the babies nestled beside her. She couldn't explain it, but something in her gut told her this was only the beginning. The story behind Lily's disappearance would come. The truth would unfold. But for now, Sarah whispered a silent prayer to whatever was listening. Her daughter was home, and whatever happened next, they would face it together. Whispers in the dark. The wind howled softly against the windows that night, rattling the panes like distant knocking. Inside, the Collins house was quiet. Too quiet. Sarah sat at the kitchen table, staring at the baby monitor she had set up beside her. The soft, rhythmic breathing of Lily and the twins crackled through the speaker like a lullaby. It should have brought her comfort. It didn't. She hadn't slept. How could she? Her 10-year-old daughter had just reappeared after being missing for over a year, emaciated, terrified, and holding 2 infants. And now she was asleep upstairs, curled up in the same pink blanket she used to take to sleepovers, with 2 tiny newborns snuggled beside her, like a puzzle piece from a world Sarah didn't understand. The clock read 2:17 a.m. Sarah hadn't moved in hours. The same tea sat untouched beside her. Her fingers trembled around the chipped mug, not from the cold, but from everything she couldn't comprehend. She needed answers. So when she heard the soft creak of footsteps above her, Sarah stood, slowly, carefully. She climbed the stairs, pausing at the top to listen. Lily was awake, not crying, not speaking, just humming. That same strange lullaby from earlier. A tune Sarah didn't recognize. Haunting, gentle, almost too mature for a child's voice. She pushed the bedroom door open. The moonlight pooled through the curtains, casting silver streaks across the floor. Lily sat upright on the bed, her back against the wall, one of the babies in her lap. The other was sleeping in the bassinet they'd pulled out of storage earlier. Lily looked up as Sarah stepped inside. Her face was calmer now. Not happy, but still. You okay? Sarah asked softly. Lily nodded. He had a nightmare. I didn't want him to cry. Sarah walked over, knelt by the bed, and touched her daughter's arm. Sweetheart, she whispered. I know you're scared. I know something happened to you. Something terrible. But you don't have to carry it all by yourself. You're home now. You can talk to me." Lily looked down at the baby in her arms, gently rocking him back and forth. Her lips trembled. "They called it the Haven," she said suddenly. Sarah blinked. "What?" "The place I was taken to. They called it the Haven, but it wasn't. It wasn't safe. It wasn't kind. They said I was chosen." Sarah's stomach dropped. "Who? Who said that?" Lily shook her head. "I don't know their real names. They wore masks. They had badges, but no names. They said I was healthy. My blood was special. That I could help make something new." Her voice was quiet, detached, like she was telling someone else's story. "They made me sleep a lot, hooked me up to machines, gave me shots. They told me I'd be a part of something important, that I'd be a mother to the future." Sarah's hands went cold. "Lily, did they hurt you?" Lily didn't answer. She didn't need to. "I don't remember all of it," she continued. "Only pieces. The walls were white, too white. There were no windows, just lights, buzzing all the time. And then I got sick. My belly started to grow. I didn't understand what was happening. I thought I was dying." Sarah sat back, gripping the edge of the bed frame to steady herself. "They didn't explain?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "No," Lily said. "But one of the nurses, her name was Marla. She was different. She was kind to me. She said I was going to have babies, twins, that I had been implanted with something special, that they'd grow faster than normal babies, that I'd be okay." Tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks as she listened. "She helped me escape," Lily said. "Marla, when she found out they were going to take the babies from me after the birth. She left a door unlocked during the storm. I ran." Sarah reached out and held her daughter's free hand. "You're safe now. I promise. No one is going to take you away again." But Lily's eyes didn't meet hers. They were fixed on the window. "They'll come," she whispered. "They always do." The next morning, Sarah locked every window in the house. She checked the doors twice. She didn't go to work. She didn't send an email. She didn't tell anyone Lily was back. There was too much at stake. Lily spent most of the day resting, drifting in and out of sleep, her body still recovering. The babies, one boy, one girl, ate and slept quietly, surprisingly quietly. Sarah had expected colic, cries, exhaustion, but they seemed calm, as if they had already seen more than most infants should. Sarah took notes. She Googled the Haven. Nothing came up. She searched illegal medical trials, child disappearance and experimentation, secret facilities, even underground clinics. Still nothing. No location. No records. But in her heart, she knew her daughter was telling the truth. That night, Sarah went down to the basement and opened the old safe Ethan had left behind when they divorced. She pulled out a .38 revolver she hadn't touched in years, just in case. The following day, something strange happened. A letter arrived in the mailbox. No return address. Inside was a single typed sentence on a slip of paper. Your daughter was never supposed to escape. No signature. No mark. Just that chilling message. Sarah's hands shook as she reread it. Someone knew. Someone was watching. She ran back into the house, locked the doors, and rushed upstairs. Lily was in the nursery, humming again. Did you go outside? Sarah asked. Lily looked up, confused. No. Why? Sarah held up the note. This was in the mailbox. Lily's face went pale. They found us. That evening, Sarah called someone she hadn't spoken to in years. Detective Ron Calderon. He had worked Lily's case the year she disappeared. Retired now, but still sharp, still trusted. Sarah told him everything. Well, not everything, just enough. He promised to come by the next morning. Lily was nervous. She didn't trust anyone, but Sarah told her they couldn't face this alone. That night, after putting the babies down, Sarah sat at the foot of Lily's bed. "What are their names?" she asked gently. Lily thought for a long moment. "I call him River," she said, nodding to the boy. "And her, Sky." Sarah smiled. "Those are beautiful names." "They came to me in a dream," Lily said. "Before they were born, they whispered them." Sarah didn't question it, not anymore. She looked at her daughter, not just a child anymore, a survivor, a protector, a mother. And she knew that whatever darkness had tried to swallow her, Lily had chosen love over fear. That gave Sarah strength. Tomorrow, they would face the world. But tonight, she sat in the quiet of her daughter's room, watching her sleep, listening to the sound of 2 tiny heartbeats beside her. The detective returns. The knock came early, not sharp, not rushed, just firm, intentional. Sarah had been waiting for it, standing by the window with the note still clutched in her pocket. She had barely slept, again. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind outside felt like footsteps, like eyes, like someone had already found them. She looked through the peephole and saw him, Detective Ron Calderon. Older now, a bit more gray at the temples, a little heavier in the jaw, but the same steady gaze, the same worn leather jacket she remembered from a year ago, when he'd promised to find her daughter and hadn't. Still, he was the only one she could trust. Sarah opened the door slowly. "Morning," Ron said simply, stepping inside as soon as she motioned him in. "Thanks for calling me, Sarah. I've thought about this case more times than I can count." She didn't respond right away. She locked the door behind him and turned all 3 bolts. Then she led him into the kitchen, where the blinds were drawn tight, the air thick with brewed coffee and tension. A baby cried softly upstairs. Ron paused. "Is that?" Sarah nodded. "We have a lot to talk about." She poured him a mug, black, just like he used to take it. He sat down and pulled a notepad from his coat pocket, flipping to a fresh page. She noticed his hand trembled slightly as he clicked his pen. "She came back 3 nights ago," Sarah began. "Walked through the front door, alone, holding 2 babies." Ron's eyebrows rose. "2? Twins," she said. "Newborns. She says they're hers." The pen stopped moving. "Sarah, she's 10. "I know," her voice cracked. "Believe me, I know how insane this sounds, but they're real. The babies. She's been through something terrible, Ron. She talked about a place called The Haven, said she was chosen, said they did things to her, experimented, implanted her." Now Ron sat up straighter. The muscle in his jaw ticked. "She said the name of the place? The Haven?" "Yes." Ron leaned back, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. "I've heard that name before," he said slowly. "In another missing child case, about 6 months ago, different town, same strange circumstances. The girl was never found, but her mother received a letter weeks later. 1 line, no return address." Sarah's heart pounded. "Do you remember what it said?" He nodded grimly. She served her purpose. Silence hung in the air, like smoke. Sarah pulled the folded note from her pocket and slid it across the table. I got this yesterday. Ron unfolded it, read it once, twice. His mouth tightened. Your daughter was never supposed to escape. He exhaled through his nose, then stood up, walking slowly toward the window. He peeked through the blinds, scanning the street like he expected someone to be out there, watching already. We have to move fast, he said. If she escaped, they're going to come looking. This isn't over, not even close. She's terrified, Ron. She said they wore masks, that they told her she had special DNA. Something about immunity, about starting something new. Ron turned to her. Do the babies show anything? Anything unusual? Sarah hesitated. They're quiet, she said. Too quiet. Barely cry. They make eye contact in a way that doesn't feel like newborns. And they recognize Lily, like they've known her longer than they've been alive. Ron's face darkened. This could be bigger than we thought. Just then, footsteps padded down the stairs. Lily stood at the bottom, barefoot in her oversized sweater, holding River in her arms. Her eyes widened when she saw the man in the kitchen. Who's he? She asked, voice small. Sarah motioned gently. It's okay, sweetheart. This is Detective Calderon. He helped search for you. He's here to help now. Ron approached slowly, cautiously, like a man approaching a wild animal who'd once been tamed, but had since tasted the fear of the wild. Hi, Lily, he said softly. I'm really glad you're home. Lily didn't smile. She looked him over, then looked away. Are you going to take me back? She asked. Ron's brow furrowed. Back where? Her voice dropped to a whisper. To them. He knelt down slightly. Not if I can help it. Lily clutched River tighter. Then don't let them find us. Ron straightened. He walked back to Sarah and lowered his voice. We need a location. This haven. Anything. Coordinators, staff, medical names. She mention anyone? She talked about a woman named Marla, Sarah said. A nurse, maybe. She said Marla helped her escape. Ron's eyes lit up. That's good, he said. That's something. He pulled out his phone and typed furiously. Then he turned the screen to show Sarah a database of registered nurses across 3 states. We're gonna find her. Sarah glanced back at Lily, who was now seated on the couch, humming again as she rocked the baby. Sky lay beside her in a blanket, eyes open, watching the ceiling like she saw stars that weren't there. Can you stay here? Sarah asked Ron. I don't want to leave her, but I need to feel like someone has our back. Ron nodded. I'll stay, but I need you to do something for me. Anything. He pulled a small black box from his coat. Something like a pager. Keep this near the front door. It's a signal jammer. If someone tries to ping your address or access your home security, it'll block it. Sarah took it. You think they're tracking us? I bet my badge on it. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Ron stepped out to take a call. Sarah stayed with Lily, reading quietly as the babies slept in their bassinets. But Lily didn't look at the book. She was staring at her fingers, fingernails peeling, cuticles dry, trauma marks, the little things most people missed. Mom, she said suddenly, do you believe me? Sarah looked up. Of course I do. I mean, all of it? About the injections, the babies, the escape? Sarah's voice didn't falter. I believe every word. Lily nodded slowly. I don't think they wanted to hurt me, she said. I think they wanted to use me. Sarah leaned closer. Use you how? Lily looked toward the window. They kept saying it would change the world. That night, just after midnight, a second letter arrived. Not in the mailbox. On the front porch, taped to the door. This time, it wasn't typed. It was handwritten. Give the children back, or everyone you love will suffer. You have 48 hours. No signature. No address. Just fear. Pressed into paper. Ron called it in immediately. I'll contact someone I trust in federal, he said. Quietly. If they're threatening your family, this isn't just a kidnapping recovery anymore. It's a breach of human rights. Sarah stared at the note, her knuckles white. She wasn't scared. She was ready. And she knew now, they weren't just protecting Lily. They were protecting something far more powerful. Something those people wanted back. But they wouldn't get it. Not now. Not ever. The 48-hour deadline. The note stayed taped to the refrigerator like a silent threat, staring back at Sarah every time she walked into the kitchen. Its words, still seared into her mind, replayed like a warning bell. Give the children back, or everyone you love will suffer. You have 48 hours. Ron had photographed it, scanned it, sent it to his off-the-record contact at Homeland Security. But no one could trace the paper. The ink was generic. The handwriting didn't match any criminal database. It was like the threat had materialized out of thin air, and Sarah knew exactly who had sent it. New Haven, or whoever they really were, was watching, closer than ever. The clock had started ticking. In the living room, Lily sat curled in the corner of the couch with River in her arms. She wasn't crying anymore. She wasn't even scared. She looked focused, hardened. The kind of focus no 10-year-old should ever wear. It broke Sarah's heart, but it also told her something else. Her daughter had seen too much, far too much, to pretend this could ever go back to normal. I heard you reading the letter last night, Lily said without looking up. Sarah stopped wiping down the counter. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for you to hear that. It doesn't matter, Lily whispered. They're not bluffing. Sarah swallowed hard. We're not giving them back. Lily looked up, her face calm. Then we have to be ready, because they're not going to ask twice. Upstairs, Sky stirred in her crib. A soft whimper, almost a whistle, echoed down the hall. Ron came out from the guest room, shirt untucked, badge clipped to his belt, and that same worn-out notebook in his hand. I've got some news, he said, walking into the kitchen. But it's not good. Sarah's shoulders stiffened. Go on. That name, Marla Jensen. We found a match. Registered nurse. Worked at a private biotech clinic in Oregon until 6 months ago. Resigned suddenly. No forwarding address. Let me guess, Sarah said bitterly. Clinic had ties to something off the books? Ron nodded grimly. It was a front. On paper, it was a prenatal research center. In reality, they were funneling patients, mostly children, from foster programs into off-site facilities, ones that don't technically exist. Sarah rubbed her temples. How deep does this go? Deep, Ron said. And high. I spoke with a source this morning. They said this entire operation has funding from someone in D.C. They wouldn't name names, but it's political, private, controlled. You're saying the government knows? I'm saying someone with power is keeping this hidden. Sarah glanced at the refrigerator clock. 43 hours left. What happens if we go public? She asked. Ron shook his head. They'll spin it, discredit you. Say you're unstable. That Lily's confused. They'll bury the story before it ever sees daylight. Sarah was silent for a long moment. Then she looked at Ron with a calm, cold steadiness. Then we don't go public. Ron narrowed his eyes. What are you thinking? We go private. We get to them before they get to us. Just then, Emily, Sarah's younger neighbor who had come by to drop off food, knocked softly at the door. Sarah opened it, surprised to see the worry on her face. I didn't know if I should say anything, Emily whispered. But there's been a van parked down the street since this morning. No plates. Tinted windows. Sarah's heart dropped. Ron pushed past her and strode to the window, lifting the blinds just a fraction. A black van, unmarked and still, sat at the corner near the stop sign. No movement. Just presence. Watching. Waiting. Is it them? Sarah asked. I'd bet my life on it, Ron said. He turned away from the window, voice sharp. We need to relocate. Tonight. Sarah looked toward the staircase, where Lily now stood with both babies in her arms, staring at them with the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly how dangerous the world could be. Not without a plan, Sarah said. We can't just run. That's what they want. Then what do you propose? Ron asked. Sarah pulled open the drawer beside the sink and retrieved the folder, one she'd kept hidden since the night Lily came back. Inside were pages from Lily's backpack, scribbles, maps, names, notes, childlike sketches of men in white coats and wires and strange machines. Sarah had dismissed them at first as trauma drawings, but now they looked like a breadcrumb trail. She didn't just escape, Sarah said. She mapped her way out. Ron leafed through the pages, his eyes widening. These aren't doodles. This is a layout. Facility rooms, access doors, monitoring stations. Exactly, Sarah said. If they want her back, then she knows something they don't want getting out. Ron set the folder down slowly. If we could get in, he said carefully, and get evidence, real evidence, it could force the DOJ to investigate. Sarah nodded. And if not, we make sure the world sees it. We'd have to move fast, Ron said. Once we go in, we'll only have minutes before their security tightens, and there's still the matter of the kids. I'm not leaving them behind, Sarah said fiercely. You won't have to, came a voice from the stairs. Lily stood tall, stronger than Sarah had ever seen her. I'll go back. What? Sarah's voice cracked. Lily, no. Listen, Lily said. They won't hurt me. Not at first. If I go in with a tracker, if you stay close, you can get inside while they're distracted. Sarah felt the air leave her lungs. You're just a child, she whispered. I was a child, Lily said. Now I'm something they built, and I want to tear it down. Ron's jaw clenched. If we do this, he said, we do it our way. Clean, controlled. We choose the place, we choose the time, and we don't go in without backup. And if backup doesn't show? Sarah asked. Ron looked her dead in the eye. Then we ended ourselves. That night, as they packed bags and installed a GPS tracker in the hem of Lily's sweater, Sarah sat on the edge of her bed and stared at a photo of Lily as a toddler, her chubby hands covered in birthday cake frosting, grinning without a care in the world. She touched the glass gently. I will bring you home again, she whispered. Downstairs, Lily rocked the babies one last time, humming under her breath. River's hand reached out and grabbed her thumb. Sky blinked up at her with eyes far too knowing for their age. I'm coming back, Lily whispered to them. And when I do, we're going to be free. In the hallway, Ron watched silently, one hand on his holstered weapon, the other holding the countdown timer he'd started when the letter first arrived. 29 hours left, and the war was just beginning. Inside the facility, the air was thick with silence, the kind of silence that wrapped around your lungs and made it hard to breathe, the kind that came right before everything shattered. They'd chosen an abandoned service station off Route 18 as the meeting point. Neutral ground, one road in, one road out. Lily stood at the edge of the lot, her small frame outlined by the amber light of a flickering street lamp. Her eyes were locked on the black van, idling just a few yards away. Sarah watched from the back seat of a delivery truck parked behind the building. Beside her, Ron kept his hand resting on his service weapon, his jaw clenched tight. "She doesn't flinch," he said quietly. "You raised a brave one." Sarah didn't answer. Her heart was thudding so loudly it drowned out the rest of the world. In her hand was the GPS tracker display. Lily's signal was steady, strong, a blinking blue dot. Still safe, still visible. The van door opened. Two figures stepped out. One was tall, wearing a sterile white coat that looked absurd in the grimy parking lot. The other was broad-shouldered, sunglasses on despite the night, a radio earpiece tucked behind his ear. They approached Lily slowly, carefully, like she might explode if they moved too fast. Sarah's grip tightened on the GPS. "Say something," she whispered under her breath. "Let them know you're still you." As if hearing her, Lily took one small step back, then said, loud enough to carry, "You shouldn't have come." The taller man spoke next, his voice flat, emotionless. "You know why we're here. You don't belong out here." Lily tilted her chin up. "You don't own me." "No," he replied, "but we created you. You are ours by design." Ron muttered under his breath, "God, I hate this." Then to Sarah, "That's their lead handler, Dr. Callan. He was at New Haven's Oregon branch until 6 months ago." Sarah blinked. "He's the one she drew in the sketches?" "Yeah," Ron confirmed. "The man with the mirror eyes. That's him." On the lot, Dr. Callan stepped closer to Lily, his hands folded behind his back. "You know what happens if you don't cooperate." "I do," Lily said softly. "That's why I'm here." He paused, clearly surprised. "You're surrendering?" "Not exactly." And before he could respond, Lily pulled up the sleeve of her sweater and revealed the silver band sewn just beneath her skin, a tracking chip, blinking. Callan's expression darkened. "What have you done?" Too late. From behind the station, Ron was already on the move. He kicked open the back door, gun drawn, and shouted, "Federal agent! On the ground!" Chaos erupted. The second man lunged for Lily, but she bolted. Ron fired once, non-lethal, a warning shot, and the man dropped to a crouch behind the van, radioing backup. Callan tried to flee, but ran straight into Sarah, who emerged from the truck with a baton in hand and rage in her eyes. She didn't even hesitate. She struck him once, hard, across the ribs, and he crumpled to the ground. Lily ran into her mother's arms, breathless. "You came," she whispered. "I told you I would," Sarah said, choking on tears. Ron secured the scene quickly, zip-tying the operative who had tried to grab Lily. The van was empty, clean, nothing but a syringe case in the glove box and a dossier labeled with 3 words, Project Eden, Reacquisition Priority. Sarah stared at it. "What's Eden?" Ron flipped it open. It's what they call the babies. They didn't go home. Instead, they drove straight to a secure location Ron had arranged. An off-grid cabin owned by a retired federal analyst in the foothills of the Cascades. It was quiet, hidden, cold, but it was safe. Sarah stood by the stone fireplace, staring at the crackling flames, holding Sky in her arms. The baby's chest rose and fell in rhythm with Sarah's breath. Across the room, Ron and Lily reviewed the folder again. "Look at this," Ron said. "Each page is coded, but I'm seeing test numbers that match Lily's blood work." They were monitoring her DNA expression across several trimesters, even before they... He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. "They grew them," Lily said. "From me, or part of me." Sarah turned, her voice trembling. "That's not your fault." "I didn't say it was," Lily replied. "But if they're trying to recreate me, they'll never stop." Ron looked up. "Then we hit them where it hurts. We take this data, get it to someone who can bury them publicly. A judge, a journalist, someone outside the system." Sarah nodded, though her heart ached. "I know someone," she said suddenly. "A reporter, Rachel Vance. She used to cover biotech corruption for the Globe. She's been off the radar for a year, but I can find her." "Then we start there," Ron said. "But there's something else," Sarah added. "I need to go back to where it started." Ron frowned. "You mean New Haven?" "No," she said. "I mean the clinic. The one where they took Lily the day she disappeared. That place wasn't just a medical building. It was a front. I saw something then. Something I didn't understand." "What did you see?" Ron asked. "A name," she whispered. "On a locked door." Ron's eyes met hers. "What name?" Sarah's voice barely escaped her lips. "Eloise Bremer." Ron froze, then swore under his breath. "What is it?" Lily asked. "I've heard that name," Ron said. "She's not just a scientist. She's a private sector biogeneticist who went dark 5 years ago. No published work, no public appearances, nothing." "And you think she's part of this?" Sarah asked. Ron opened his laptop, pulling up a secure drive. He tapped through encrypted files, then paused at a photo, an old security badge for a private lab. It was her, Eloise Bremer, founder of Eden Initiative, and beneath her name, a single word burned into the badge's ID strip: designate. "She didn't just lead the research," Ron said. "She started it." Sarah stared at the screen. "Then we find her." "No," Lily whispered, her eyes wide with something like recognition. "We don't have to." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked. Lily hesitated. "Because," she said slowly, "I've seen her before." Sarah's breath caught. "Where?" Lily looked up at her mother, and then toward the twins, now asleep on a blanket near the fire. "She was the last face I saw before I escaped. The mother of Eden." The fire crackled, but it did little to warm the chill that settled in the room after Lily spoke. "I've seen her," she repeated. Sarah leaned forward, her voice soft and urgent. "Lily, where?" Lily's gaze drifted toward the window, where the moonlight stretched long and pale across the floor. "In the observation room, at the facility, before I escaped, before the fire. She was watching me, not like the others did. She wasn't afraid. She looked proud." Ron's expression darkened. "Proud?" "She called me her prototype," Lily whispered. The room went still. Even the flames seemed to pause. Ron opened his laptop and began typing rapidly. If that's true, then Bremer isn't just part of this. She's the architect. This wasn't some rogue experiment buried inside a company. It was her vision from the beginning. Sarah stood and began pacing, her hands trembling. Then why Lily? Why choose my daughter? Why take her from school and use her like some lab animal? Ron didn't answer immediately, but when he did, his voice was lower, measured, because they saw something in her, something genetic, something rare, probably passed down through you or her father, something they could exploit. Lily turned toward Sarah. What if I never escaped? What if she let me go? The question sat in the air like a ticking clock. Why would she let you go? Sarah asked, a tremor in her voice. To test me, Lily said slowly, to see what I'd do, to see what the twins would become. The wind outside howled. Sarah crossed the room and pulled the twins closer to the fireplace. Sky stirred in her sleep, murmuring softly. We need to end this, Sarah said suddenly. Her voice had lost its fear. It was all steel now. I'm done hiding. I want to look this woman in the eyes and ask her what she did to my daughter. Ron nodded. Then we go to the source. I think I found it. He turned the laptop around. On the screen was a satellite image, an isolated facility built into the side of a cliff. No road signs, no driveways, no official name. Just a 3-word project code embedded in a utility invoice. eBase, Genesis Vault. It's off the grid, Ron explained. But there's enough residual data in the system to suggest high energy use. Labs, servers, equipment. It's not just a storage bunker, it's operational. Sarah stared at the image. Where is it? Wyoming, near the Tetons. Deep forest. Almost inaccessible during the winter, unless you know the service trail. And she's there? Lily asked. If she's still running the Eden Initiative, Ron said. This is where it lives now. Silence fell again, the kind of silence that demanded a decision. Sarah looked at Lily, then the twins, then Ron. What would it take to get us there? Ron replied without hesitation. I've got contacts. We'd need gear, cold weather equipment, backup transport in case the roads are blocked, and I'd need to call in a favor from someone who's been trying to expose Bremer for years. Who? Sarah asked. Ron's jaw tensed. A former operative. Her name's Ayla Shaw. She used to run private extraction missions for compromised scientists. She quit when her sister disappeared during a job tied to Bremer's name. Sarah swallowed. And you think she'll help? She won't just help, Ron said. She'll burn the place to the ground. It took 2 days to plan. 2 days of watching the perimeter, packing, encrypting files, sending copies of the evidence to trusted sources in case they didn't make it back. And on the 3rd morning, a black Jeep rolled down the cabin's dirt driveway. The driver was a woman in her mid-30s, sharp eyes, short cropped hair, and a presence that made even Victor's former intensity seem like a flicker. Ayla stepped out. No words, just a nod. You're the mother, she said, eyes on Sarah. And you're the girl. I'm Lily, came the calm reply. Ayla smiled faintly. You're taller than I expected. Stronger too. I can see it in your posture. Sarah frowned. You've been following us? No, Ayla replied. I've been following her. She pointed to Ron. And anyone linked to Bremer. You just made more noise in 3 weeks than I've seen in 3 years. That's a good thing. She stepped forward, unzipping a small black pouch. I brought cold gear suits. You'll need them. Once we're in, we'll have 2 hours before their internal cameras reset. That's your window. Ron nodded. You sure about the entrance point? I've used it before, Ayla said. I've never gone beyond the surface level, but if we breach the vault below, if we find Bremer, we end this. And the kids? Sarah asked. Ayla's expression softened just a little. There's a safe house in Jackson Hole. One of mine. I have a trusted team member waiting there. I'll escort them first, then double back for the mission. Sarah hesitated. Her instinct screamed to never let her children out of sight again. But she looked at Lily, who looked her straight in the eye. It's okay, Mom, she said. I'm not afraid. Sarah knelt down and pressed her forehead to Lily's. Just come back to me, no matter what you find in there. Lily nodded. I will. Sarah kissed the twins gently, whispered a blessing she used to say when Lily was small, then stood. Let's go, she said. They reached the trailhead by nightfall. The forest was dead quiet. Even the wind was still. Ayla led the way, ducking beneath low pine branches, boots crunching over snow and dry leaves. Ron followed next, carrying a case of thermal charges. Then Sarah and Lily, side by side, each step bringing them closer to the place where everything had started. After 2 miles, the trees parted, and there it was, a slab of concrete hidden in the cliffside. Steel door, no lights, no sign, no path, just a silent mouth waiting to swallow them whole. Ayla reached into her coat and pulled out a black key fob. She pressed it once. The door hissed open. Cold air poured out from the darkness beyond, and at the far end of the hallway, lit by a single red light, stood a woman in white, tall, composed, waiting. Lily's breath caught. That's her, she said. Sarah stepped forward, voice tight. Eloise Bremer. The woman's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. Welcome home, she said. The vault below. The silence inside the corridor was unnatural. No echo, no hum of electricity, not even the sound of breathing. Sarah's boots hit the concrete with slow, deliberate steps as she followed Bremer into the depths of the Genesis vault. Behind her, Lily kept close, her eyes never leaving the woman in white who walked just ahead, as if she were floating more than moving. Ayla and Ron trailed behind, both alert, fingers near their weapons. But Bremer made no threatening move. She simply led them deeper, her hands folded behind her back, her composure unnerving. You came armed, Bremer said, her voice calm and clipped. But not for battle. That tells me you want the truth more than revenge. No, Sarah snapped. We want both. Bremer chuckled softly. You sound like a mother. I am a mother. They turned a corner, passing a set of reinforced glass panels. Behind them, a sterile white room with hospital beds. Empty, but still warm, recently used. Sarah caught the edge of a blanket folded too neatly. Children had slept there. Lily stiffened beside her. Bremer paused. They're not here anymore. I relocated the remaining subjects when your little journalist friend leaked our project files. You bought yourself some time, but you didn't stop the program. And what exactly is the program? Ayla cut in, voice like steel. Bremer turned slowly. Human potential, she said. The kind that cannot be unlocked through tradition. Nature gave us templates, DNA strands with infinite possibilities. The Eden Initiative was built to push them forward, to evolve what evolution could not. Sarah took a step forward. You kidnapped my daughter. You experimented on her. You forced her. I chose her, Bremer said sharply. Because her genome is extraordinary. You don't understand what she is. She's a child, Sarah growled. That's what she is. But Bremer's gaze drifted to Lily. No, she said. She's not. There was a weight in her voice that made even Ayla falter. Ron narrowed his eyes. What are you talking about? Bremer pressed her palm to a scanner. A door hissed open. They stepped into a vast, circular chamber. Not cold like the rest of the vault, but strangely warm. The lights glowed a soft amber. Along the walls, holographic displays shimmered to life, revealing charts, scans, and video footage. At the center of it all was a chair, sleek, white, with wires coiled like vines around its base. Bremer gestured toward it. This is where she sat, during the first test. Lily stopped cold. A memory cracked open like a flood. The white light, the questions, the sharp coldness of metal against her skin. She stepped closer, one hand trembling as it reached for the chair. She didn't touch it, couldn't, but her body leaned toward it, pulled by something ancient inside her. She was the only subject who never rejected the injection, Bremer said softly. Others developed complications, mutations, but Lily adapted, not just survived, transformed. Sarah turned, her voice shaking. You're saying you changed her? Genetically? Bremer nodded. We introduced a synthetic sequence. It was meant to enhance immunity, but with her, it did more. Neural acceleration, cellular regeneration, emotional recalibration. She was 10, Sarah whispered. You played God on a child. I played evolution's game better than anyone before me, Bremer replied. Ayla stepped forward, her voice sharp. And the twins? Bremer looked at Lily. They were never supposed to exist, but their birth proved the theory. The genetic code passed on, pure, stable, stronger than even their mother. Lily's knees buckled. Sarah rushed to catch her. I'm sorry, Lily gasped. I didn't know. I didn't want. You didn't do anything wrong, Sarah said fiercely. She did. Ron raised his camera, recording everything. I've got what I need, he murmured. This is evidence. Bremer didn't flinch. Do you think anyone will believe you? A grieving mother? A runaway child? A disgraced hacker? Her calm was terrifying. But then Ayla smiled. We don't need belief, she said. We just need proof. And a network of journalists willing to light the match. Bremer's expression finally cracked. The corner of her mouth twitched. You think exposure will end this? She said. I have backers. I have governments watching. Eden isn't a scandal. It's an investment. Not anymore, Ron said, hitting send. Bremer's eyes widened. He grinned. Live stream. Full dump. It's already out. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. What did you do? Bremer hissed. Ron smirked. Turned on the lights. Suddenly, voices crackled over the vault intercom. This is the FBI. Step away from all consoles. You are surrounded. Sarah grabbed Lily's hand. We're getting out of here. Bremer looked stunned. Then something in her snapped. She lunged for the console. Ayla fired once. The bullet struck the wall near Bremer's hand. I will kill you, Ayla said coldly. Don't test me. Bremer raised her hand slowly, her expression falling into something hollow, empty, as if she knew this was the end. I tried, she whispered. I tried to make us better. Lily looked at her, and for the first time, Her voice didn't tremble. No, you tried to play God, and now you answer to people. They walked out through the vault door as armed agents swarmed in. Helicopters roared overhead. Flashlights lit the forest in waves. Sarah held Lily's hand the whole way up the trail. Behind them, Bremer was led away in cuffs. Silent. Ayla stayed behind to give her report. Ron turned to Sarah. You did it. No, Sarah said, looking at Lily. She did. The air was cold, but the sky was clear, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like morning. The children of tomorrow. The sun broke gently through the curtains of the safe house. Morning didn't come with alarms or the threat of dark cars outside anymore. It came with the soft cooing of babies and the muffled giggles of a girl who was beginning to remember what childhood felt like. Sarah sat by the window, holding a warm mug between her palms, watching the way the light caught on Lily's hair as she tried to teach Hope how to clap her hands. It had been 4 weeks since the story broke. 4 weeks since the files from Project Eden had flooded the headlines, since the faces of doctors once hidden behind corporate logos had appeared on television screens and court hearings. The world had finally turned its gaze toward what had been done in the shadows. For the first time, Sarah didn't feel like she was whispering into the void. But freedom, as it turned out, came with conditions. One morning, a pair of government agents came to the house. Their voices were calm but firm, their badges polished to a cold gleam. We're here to assess the situation, the taller one said. Lily is technically an undocumented subject of an unauthorized medical trial. The government needs to consider the implications of that, both scientifically and ethically. Sarah's grip tightened on the baby bottle in her hand. She's a child, she said flatly. She's my daughter. The agent hesitated. She's also carrying genetic markers that could change the future of medicine. We're not here to separate families. We're here to protect national interest. Lily, listening from the hallway, turned quietly and walked back to her room without a sound. That night, Sarah sat on the edge of her bed, brushing Lily's hair the way she used to when she was little, before everything had been taken. I'm sorry, Sarah whispered. I told you they'd never take you again, but you're still here, Lily said softly. That's more than most people ever did. There was something in Lily's voice, so young and yet heavy with experience. She had been forced to grow up in places that smelled like antiseptic and silence. She had learned how to stay alive, how to protect her babies, how to run. But she had never learned how to just be safe until now. A week later, Sarah received a letter, a custody hearing. Apparently, several federal agencies were now debating whether Lily and the twins should be placed under protective care, not for safety, but for observation. They wanted to monitor development. The phrasing was clinical, as if they weren't talking about human beings, but specimens, as if Lily were still just subject 12. Sarah could barely breathe as she read the final line. Temporary removal from current guardian, pending court review. She called Mark Davids first, then a lawyer, then the local news. And when none of them were fast enough, she opened her laptop and went live, in her living room, with Lily holding the babies behind her. Sarah looked into the camera and said, If you think I'm going to let someone take my daughter and my grandchildren because of what they did to her, you don't know what love is. You may have experimented on her. You may have injected her, but you don't own her. She belongs to herself and to me. Within hours, #LetLily Stay was trending across every major platform. The public outcry was louder than even Project Eden's darkest secrets. And so, when the day of the hearing came, Sarah wasn't alone. Outside the courtroom, protesters held signs. "She's a child, not a case number. Protect Lily, not her DNA." Inside, Sarah held Lily's hand so tightly, her knuckles turned white. When Lily stood before the judge, she didn't cry. She didn't shake. She simply said, "She didn't find me in a lab. She found me in the woods, crying and afraid. And she chose me. Every single day since, I've never known what it's like to be someone's daughter. Until now." The courtroom went silent. The judge looked down, her voice steady but warm. "There's no precedent for what's happened to you, Lily, but there's a precedent for love, and I think that's what we should follow today." The gavel struck, guardianship granted. The family would stay together. They moved 3 weeks later, not to another safe house, but to a home, a real one. It wasn't big, just a small, yellow house on the edge of a sleepy neighborhood, where dogs barked behind fences and kids rode bikes in the afternoons. But it had a fenced-in yard, a garden out back, and sunlight that filtered through the kitchen just right. Lily started school again. The twins, Jonah and Hope, began to crawl. Victor visited often, bringing toys or groceries or just his quiet sense of protection. He never said much, but the way he smiled when Lily greeted him at the door said everything. One evening, Sarah sat in the backyard with a pen and a notebook in hand. She wasn't writing a legal brief, not a news report, but a book. She called it The Children of Tomorrow. It wasn't about science. It was about survival, and about how family is not defined by genetics, or custody papers, or blood tests, but by the people who stand by you when the world tries to break you. In the final chapter, she wrote, "We were just ordinary people, but we became extraordinary through love. And in the end, that's the only thing they couldn't control." One afternoon, Lily returned home with a drawing she had made in school. It showed a woman with brown hair, holding 2 babies. A little girl stood next to her, smiling. Above them, in purple crayon, it said, "My real family." Sarah held the picture against her heart, tears stinging her eyes. She looked up and whispered, "Thank you," to no one in particular. Maybe the universe, maybe fate, maybe just to herself, because the girl who had once vanished had returned not just with fear, but with life, with love, with a future. And so, when the sun dipped low that evening, casting golden light across the yard, the 3 of them sat together under the maple tree. Lily, Sarah, Jonah, and Hope. Laughter echoed against the quiet. Fireflies began to dance in the air. And somewhere, far from the reach of labs and white coats and black cars, a new chapter began. If love is the most powerful science, what would you be willing to do to protect your family? What would you be willing to fight for if your child was the key to everything? Let us know in the comments below. Follow for more videos.